After the conclusion of each major, I like to check the defensive win rates of each bomb site, and you can usually find oddities there. One of the oddities of SI 2022 is the win rate of bar and stage bomb site. With 50% win rate, statistically, bar and stage is the third best bomb site. So is bar finally a viable site? Let's find out. Let's talk about the most important part of the round, which is the execution phase. If you understand everything about the execution phase, understanding the rest of the strat will be a piece of cake. We'll start by talking about spots where attackers can plant. Whenever you want to analyze a plant spot, you should consider these factors. How much protection does that spot provide? How easy it is for defenders to deny the plant, and angles that they have on that spot. The distance the planter should travel and the angles he or she should pass to get to a plant spot. Other attackers' positioning and the support they give to the planter. The post-plant positions. Okay, now let's talk about the plant spots. For the first two plant spots, attackers should at least have gym, bedroom, and office control. It's highly recommended to also have strip control. Starting with this spot behind the bar, the hard wall behind the planter provides protection for him, but he is still planting in a fairly open spot. He is exposed to kitchen, main stairs, lobby, stage, and vertical holes. Defenders can deny the plant from modo hatch. There's an exception, and that is a C4 won't kill the planter. The distance that the planter should travel is medium long. This is a very exposed plant spot, and it needs a lot of manpower to cover the planter, which you can't always guarantee to have, since we assumed attackers have upstairs control and hopefully they cleared pipes and bar door. The angles the planter should worry about are kitchen, main stairs, and lobby. Post-plant positions are as follows. Two attackers are upstairs holding the map control. One pool, one bar, one kitchen or main stairs. Next is a bar plant spot. The planter is covered from behind and the sides, but he is exposed from the front. Defenders can deny the plant from modo hatch. The distance that the planter should travel is medium long. The planter might be exposed to kitchen and pipe. Since we assumed attackers have upstairs control and hopefully they cleared pipes and bar door. The only angle the planter should worry about is main stairs and maybe the kitchen angle. Post-plant positions are as follows. Two attackers are upstairs holding the map control. One pool, one bar, one kitchen or main stairs. This is a better plant spot compared to the previous one. The planter has a lot of cover, so attackers don't need to watch many angles. Similar to the previous plant spot, attackers need to take a lot of map control, leaving them low on time for when they want to plant, thus strengthening the modo hatch plant denial. Attackers need to gain control of the east side for the next 4 plant spots. The post-plant positions of the next 4 plant spots are mostly the same, except for the stage plant. The planter stays by the diffuser, because if he moves, he'll die. One attacker is either in toilets or by hallway door. His job is to watch the hallway and kill anybody who tries to run across. One attacker is by lobby watching for flanks and also supporting the planter. The 2 remaining attackers are upstairs, specifically around cache, holding off construction pushes. The pre-plant positions are very similar to post-plant positions, except that the planter is in stock. It's also worth mentioning that if attackers clear strip or if it's already clear, an attacker could try to backstab defenders during the execution phase. With all that out of the way, we can talk about the next plant spot, which is by pipes. Surprisingly, the wall in front of the planter provides a lot of protection against kitchen and main stairs. Defenders can deny the plant from modo hatch. They could also use vertical holes, but they will be exposed to the bedroom window. While trying to get to that plant spot, the planter is exposed to main stairs, kitchen, pool, and toilets. The distance that the planter should travel is long. Consequently, defenders have more opportunities to kill the planter. In other words, the long distance strengthens the horizontal angles. This plant spot is relatively safe. Attackers should be watching horizontal angles, and they should also contest bedroom window, so defenders wouldn't be able to use the vertical angles. For the next plant spot, we'll move to the other side of the refrigerator. The planter is surrounded by cover, but defenders can deny the plant from modo hatch. Defenders can't use vertical holes without exposing themselves to cache or bedroom window. The distance that the planter should travel is medium long. While trying to get to that plant spot, the planter is exposed to kitchen, main stairs, pool, and toilets. This is one of the best plant spots. Similar to other plant spots, defenders can deny the plant from modo hatch. Attackers have two options. They can either try shooting the C4 or they can try to get man advantage. Because with man advantage you can easily refrag, and lower man count usually creates a gap in the defense. There's also another option that I forgot to mention, and that is to fake a plant. Or since defenders usually don't have a lot of info on the site, attackers can use smokes to confuse the defenders and then go for plant like what Sonics did. Attackers definitely don't want to go here to have a drink. I'm talking about the bottles plant spot. This plant spot is less secure and worse than the previous one. Defenders can use vertical holes or modo hatch to deny the plant. While defenders are using the vertical holes, they are not exposed to bedroom window. The distance that the planter should travel is medium long. While trying to get to that plant spot, the planter is exposed to kitchen, main stairs, and toilets. This is one of the worst plant spots. This plant spot has a lot of issues. Strong horizontal and vertical angles, and the risk of a C4 being thrown from modo hatch. Now, let's get to the meat of the video, the most important plant spot. Let's talk about the stage plant. This is the best plant spot of this site. The planter is covered from all sides. While planting, the planter is only exposed to construction hatch. That's why there will be attackers upstairs denying this opportunity. The distance that the planter should travel is very short. While trying to get to that plant spot, the planter is exposed to main stairs, pool, and bar. Now, let's talk in detail about the ways defenders can deny the stage plant. For any plant spot, there are two main ways to deny the plant. 1. Using a plant denial gadget. 2. Physically shooting the planter. Plant denial gadgets include, but are not limited to, Smoke's canisters, C4s, Echo's yokai, Maestro's evil eye, Goyo's Vulcan, Chachanka's Shumicha launcher, and impacts. Okay, now we're going to talk about each of these gadgets. Using Smoke's canisters is the most common way to deny a plant. Smoke can throw his canisters from modo hatch or main stairs. The former option is the better and safer spot. You can't use a C4 to deny the plant. For example, you can't throw a C4 from bar because of the wooden beam and air vents in the way. You also can't throw a C4 from modo hatch because the plant spot is out of reach. Listing impact grenades as a plant denial gadget might have surprised you, and that is totally justified. I'll give you an example when impacts might be better than C4s. One of the common strats on master and office side of Chalet is that defenders extend to kitchen and they'll try to use a C4 to deny the plant behind half wall. Unfortunately, I've seen numerous times that either the C4 gets shot or it gets stuck onto the reinforced wall. You don't run into those problems with impacts. I admit that this wasn't a very good example, but it still shows when impacts might be better than C4s. Now to be clear, I'm not saying that defenders should rely on impacts to deny the stage plant. But it's good to know if it's possible or not. Sadly, the answer is no. Impact grenades don't always detonate upon impact, and they have a timer. The timer is too short for the impact to reach the planter. There are two viable yokai spots for this site. One is by the part of the wooden beam that is close to lobby. The other one is behind the bar. But I would be cautious when I place the yokai there, cause attackers will probably throw a nade to clear behind the bar. There are two viable evil eye spots for plant denial. One by the jukebox and the one at the back of the bar. I like the latter option more, because it's really hard to throw a nade that far. If attackers want to use retro drones, it might be better to use them early in the round, cause defenders may not be in position to shoot that drone. The only remaining option is to use explosive projectiles. By the way, this evil eye provides more info than the other evil eye. You might think that attackers are more exposed if they want to destroy jukebox's evil eye. But that's false. So there isn't a single best evil eye spot for this site. In the brief time I had to test Goyo's Vulcan, I had a really hard time shooting the Vulcan, but it might be just my bad aim. Tachanka's Shumicha launcher is very inconsistent. The second way to deny plants is to physically shoot the planter. This is one of the reasons the two defenders upstairs should at least occupy the upstairs attackers and try to kill the planter from construction's hatch. I also like to see a defender hold this pull angle. Flanks usually don't work, unless they are paired with a coordinated push from the rest of the defenders. Some teams brought Clash for info, but they could have also used her to deny the plant. So far, we've talked about how to directly deny the stage plant. There are also indirect ways to deny the plant. When defenders waste time throughout the round and gain man advantage, they will increase their chances of winning during the execution phase. If pros are given enough time to execute their plans, they'll win most of the rounds. But if they have lesser time, they will have to execute their plans quickly, and that increases the probability of them making a mistake, or they might just run out of time. Another way to create a hole in attackers' plans is to lower their man count and or have the man advantage for refrags. As we'll discuss later in the video, defenders can't waste a lot of time unless attackers decide to clear the entire top floor. So defenders' main focus throughout the round should be to get kills. I said get kills because even in a 4v4, defenders have the upper hand. With lower man count, there's bound to be a hole in this attack. Okay, now we're well equipped to talk about the rest of the round. I've spent a lot of time talking about the execution phase. If I've done my job well, understanding the rest of the video will be easy. Nevertheless, if something still doesn't make sense to you, feel free to ask in the comments. Bar and stage is an open site with few to no power positions, so defenders need to extend their hold. There are 3 ways to extend the hold: extend horizontally, extend vertically, do a mix of both. Horizontal only extension won't work for this site, because the ceiling above most rooms are soft, which gives attackers the ability to do vertical pressure. Furthermore, taking control of lobby, lounge, Adam, stock, kitchen and pool is really easy for attackers. This forces defenders to play in very predictable and vulnerable spots, so defenders must at least extend vertically. But can they do both horizontal and vertical extension? We'll answer that shortly. But first, let's talk about cache hold. While making a strat for a new site, it's sometimes helpful to look at other strats for ideas. Defenders want to hold gym because of all the vertical pressure they can put on the site. So the most similar strat that comes into mind is Master and Gym hold. FaZe's strat looked a lot like Master and Gym hold, but with some minor tweaks. The most important change that they did was removing top red stairs shield. In my previous video, I've touched upon the importance of that shield. Basically, if you remove that shield, the top red player is forced to play in a very uncomfortable spot, and he is in a disadvantage when he wants to challenge CCTV or Rafters window. One of the big issues that we were constantly running into while analyzing each plant spot was that defenders were always worried about bedroom window. To ease their minds, defenders use a shield on the bed which provides cover for the east side of the bedroom. That's why FaZe couldn't use a shield on top red. FaZe's strat wanted to waste a lot of time holding cache, which this hold does not achieve. Hence, the lineup and the mindset are not in accordance with one another. They could replace Maestro and Melusi with Echo and Jaeger and do a proper cache hold. But this only works if attackers start clearing from cache, which isn't always the case, because attackers could do a strat similar to Jacuzzi only attack on Master and Gym sites. To summarize, FaZe's way of defending cache didn't waste much time. If we were to tweak the strat and put more emphasis on holding cache, we would be weakening the gym and ground floor hold. Also, if defenders lose the entire top floor control, they'll need something to fall back on. In other words, defenders need to have some kind of horizontal extension too for when they lose the entire top floor control. Moving on, next hold close to master and gym hold is construction hold, and as I've stated in my previous video, I don't think construction hold is a viable strat. The remaining rooms on top floor are office, gold, jacuzzi hallway, bedroom, bathroom, and gym. These are the rooms defenders will focus on defending. Defenders only need 3 players to defend the top floor. The 2 remaining defenders will be in bar and strip. Do you remember how many times I talked about the pull angle? Well, you can hold that angle from strip where it's safer. But the trade-off is that the line of sight is narrower. The strip player will also be watching for backstabs. The bar player could bring a second shield. That player's job is to delay the plant, and they could also rotate upstairs if their help is needed. There are 3 shield positions for bar. One by the refrigerator. This is a useless spot for a shield. The main reason to use this shield is to challenge stock and deny the stage plant. But defenders can already do that from behind the bar. Defenders also can't use ADSs for this shield. The other shields are by bar close to Modo hatch. I don't really see a difference in their purposes. I like this shield position more. Besides creating more space and providing protection, this shield eliminates the opportunity to be a bit risky and drop Modo hatch. Plus, in some circumstances, if a nade is thrown too close to the shield, it won't destroy the ADSs, giving them enough time to reactivate. This shield allows the defender to be able to play behind the bar. A fragger should play in this position because of the claustrophobic nature of this spot. One last note before we talk about the setup. After attackers take top floor control, the places where defenders can play are as follows. 1 kitchen, challenging the plant physically and also watching lobby. 1 strip, holding this angle and also watching gym's hatch. 1 modo, trying to deny the plant. 1 close to stage or in stock, using this angle to challenge anybody pushing bar. This angle is created by an impact. They could also try to flank the attackers. The last person could be playing on main stairs, stage, lobby, toilets, pool, or they could try to retake top floor control with another defender. We're gonna analyze a round between SSG and Nobi. If you want more round analysis of this site, let me know so I would make a part 2. Starting with the ground floor, we have defenders double reinforcing stock wall. Needless to say, their job is to deny quick access to a stage's plant spot. The angles on each reinforcement is the same, so what I like to do is just reinforce the top wall and put footholds on the bottom wall. Defenders can watch launch from bar or main stairs using the footholds. The bulletproof camera provides info on lobby, stock, and east side plant spots. This bulletproof camera can also deny intel by EMPing drones. There is a vaultable rotation and the line of sight on pipes wall. The line of sight is used to challenge lobby. The vaultable rotation provides a line of sight to the top reinforcement panel. The reason this rotation is vaultable is to discourage attackers from trying to do an aggressive play. Maybe one of the reasons there isn't a vaultable rotation on the left panel instead of the right one is because of this angle. There is a shield by bar close to bar's door. If you remember, I've said that I don't like this spot. But in this situation, I actually understand the reason to use this shield. Defenders created a line of sight on this wall. If the shield was close to the back of the bar, there wouldn't have been a way to smoke stage. With that being said, I still don't like this setup. I think a better setup is to reinforce both the vaultable hole and this wall and move the shield position to the back. The reason for that is that I don't believe that defenders can hold kitchen and by opening a line of sight, it adds another angle onto bar. But clearly, SSG disagrees with me. Proximity alarms, prismas, and barricades are used for intel. Normal barricade could also be used for a temporary protection. Defenders opened Modo, Construction, Kitchen, and Gym's hatch. Defenders can watch pool's big window and deny pushes to pool by using Gym's hatch. The toilet's shield provides protection and strengthens the horizontal hold. The single reinforcement in strip denies these angles. There's a line of sight and a vaultable rotation on Pool's wall. Just a reminder that one of the reasons defenders are holding strip is to use this angle. There are armor panels on hallway door, pools, bedrooms, and constructions window. As I've said many times, these armor panels deny angles, provide protection, and also waste utility. Especially in this match that a sledge was banned. These lines of sight are watching kitchen, so the kitchen player would have some support. These walls deny these angles and provide protection to defenders. Jacuzzi is double reinforced. Depending on how comfortable the office player is, some teams remove one reinforcement from jacuzzi wall and one from construction wall, and they use them to make the office player more comfortable. These mute jammers deny intel. If you notice, there isn't a shield on the bed, and that's because this armor panel is doing that shield's job. There should be a rotation on the left side of gold. Otherwise, defenders would be exposed when rotating from gold. The reason for this vaultable hole is the same as previous ones. The rest of the strat is self-explanatory. There are 3 ways to attack this site. In this video, we'll be analyzing the objective-focused attack, aka cache-only attack. Other attacks will be explained when we talk about master and gym site. Attackers start by droning and clearing garage. Then they open CCTV wall and clear cache.
Navi wants to push in from this southern side. Take it under control, take that top floor as well, and make sure you do it quick. There is an opening, however, I believe already in construction I just saw. I'm not quite sure how that came through, but as Blur continues his pressure onto CCTV cache, the saves that will join him now. And
these angles that Buck is creating is for attackers to watch construction.
Making sure that they have all these angles, they're putting their width and their pressure onto getting control of construction, because then you've got the stage to work with underneath on side, that stock side. You can hear that.
After attackers open construction's wall, it's time to set up the execution phase, i.e. putting up flank drones, clearing behind the bar, destroying intel gathering gadgets, and if possible clearing kitchen.
The stack up of every other position means that you've still got to try and have a fight to get your way in.
As you see on your screen, Alibi has thrown out the Prisma outside. Besides being annoying, it gives Alibi the opportunity to challenge South Balcony. If this was a top floor clear, the attacker on South Balcony would be in a very uncomfortable position, because that attacker needs to pressure defenders by using the windows and also watch out for runouts. It's very important that Alibi spaces out her runouts.
By Folds as well, there will be 2 left. Bunch of time still on that clock, and they will have to deal with their identity hidden at all given time. And secretly now that locks off the bar hallway. That stops a lot of the lines of sides as well, and basically only leaves it up to Fultz to make sure that this plant will not push through. And if Nave then decides to go...
Now it's time for defenders to play aggressive. Yana and Buck are upstairs and they die because defenders are retaking cache control. One defender pushes from bedroom door and another one pushes from office. Castle also jumps out very smartly and gets a pick. With 3 attackers dead, the round is pretty much over.
Now Nathan's found himself a little pocket of space, but it's a 4 versus 2 and they now have verticality. You can see them moving above. They're looking for the angle. They found it, and just before
just in time,
he found the plant there and everything has fallen away from them. SSG, lock it out. 3-2-5.
Here are some tips and tricks. Thanks for watching. I've made a Shaiiko player analysis post if you want to check it out. There's gonna be an announcement video soon. I've also created a survey and I would appreciate it if you participated. This video took a lot longer to make than I expected, so I might have made a mistake in this video. If that's the case, I'll either make a pinned comment or I'll make another video correcting myself. Again, thanks for watching and I wish you a happy new year.